This is, let's call it Tenkatoitsu, yeah, by Hexasim. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, and when it comes to Japanese pronunciation, I'm going to get it all horribly wrong. So just take it in the spirit of fun and good humour that it's all intended. Because I'm going to get it all wrong. Tenkatoitsu Sengoku Jidai. Well, it's fun even if it's wrong. So, yeah, this is a game about samurai. That whole samurai thing. I'm no great scholar of Japanese history. I'm no scholar at all of Japanese history. This game covers 3 battles in a very warlike period of Japanese history, which the third of which is Sekigahara, which is the famous battle that sort of marks the start of the Tokugawa dynasty. So Sekigahara in 1600. The other 2 battles, Nagakute and Yamazaki. Okay, this one here is Nagakute in 1584. And what we have is the Green Army, which is not Tokugawa. Tokugawa is the sort of blue and black counters. Beautiful, beautiful counters, by the way, but we'll come back to that. Look at these. They're not just... they're shaded, and they've got clan mon emblems on them, and they're just really cool. And they're also sort of clipped. You can see the sort of little side nubs on them, but they're all pre die cut with these beautiful, cut on them, so you don't have to do any work at all apart from punch them out. There's no stacking, so those little side nibs won't be a problem in the slightest. So the component quality is just absolutely fantastic. Sorry about the camera shake, that's me rolling my sleeves up with the camera in my hand. Right, yeah, so the black counters are the Tokugawa army, and you can see there aren't very many. There's 5 there, and there's a couple down here. Panning across the map, there's 1 over there. And strung out along this road is this great big green army round here, and then there's a bit of a gap, and then there's a bunch of them down there. And that lot is commanded by some guy whose name I won't be able to pronounce. Here we go, Akira Sunioki. Fantastic. And they're all sat having breakfast when they get ambushed by the Tokugawa army. So this is the sort of first elements coming on, and you can see up here T3 with some arrows. So I think the rest of the Tokugawa army arrives there on that road in turn 3, and that's going to consist of these 3 stacks here. Another 12 units. I think there's 4 in each of those, A, B, and C. So another 12 units are going to arrive along that road. Great. So I've obviously been reading the rules and trying to slowly get to grips with this, and everything about it is pretty unconventional, pretty new. There aren't any, there aren't any sort of standard hex encounter tropes here, well, apart from the fact that you've got hexes and counters and movement points, but beyond that, we're in new territory. If I were to zoom in on some counters here, like this, the J's in the top corner show that they're all from the same clan, and the clan is the clan means you can give them orders. That's your sort of unit size for giving orders to. So you can give orders to J. You can't give each of them individual orders, but J can be under orders, and those orders are essentially like musket and pike: attack, defend, maneuver, or regroup, rally, whatever you want to call it. Regroup, it's called in this game. So K could have orders, those 3 Ks, those Js could have orders, those Ls could have orders. Each of these could individually have orders because they're each an individual clan, H and I. And we can record what orders things have up on this display over here where we have all our letters for all our orders. And the chart defaults to defense. So we put our order markers on there to show what orders we're under. Great. That's the letters. That's their clan identifier. Then we have a dash there. That means a point of leadership in this unit here. We have a dot which shows points of firepower. So point of firepower, 2 points of firepower, point of firepower. And then we have 2 numbers. We've got an Elan number, which is sort of troop quality, aggression stuff. Yeah, so that's essentially a troop quality number, higher the better. And you can see a 0, a 1 and a couple of 2s. And we have a mass number, that's how many troops there are. Again, higher is better, so we've got a couple of 2s and a couple of 3s. So what we don't have is your more normal attack, defense, movement points. You'll notice there aren't any movement points at all, and that's because your movement points are determined by what type of order you're in. If you're in attack, you've got 3. If you're in maneuver, you've got 4. If you're in defense, I don't think you've got any. And if you're in retreat or regroup, I think you get 8, but I'd have to check that. There's no real sort of terrain effects chart either. You'll see that the hex sides, dotted hex sides here because it's a river, whereas open are hex sides here and closed hex sides here, but a road. So like a closed hex side like that costs, I think it's 2 movement points across that, but 1 along a road, 2 across a dotted, 1 across an open, and so on. So your movement point costs are all indicated by the map. You'll see sort of mountain peaks with these triangles and lines, and so on. It's all quite cunning. But again, it's all very unfamiliar. This is not the standard notation that you're used to in a hex and counter war game. The combat system involves this chart here, and I won't go into it all or even try and describe it until I'm actually playing and working through a combat. But what you'll see is blue dice result, red dice result, cross-reference them on a table, and you're rolling a pair of blue dice and a pair of red dice as the attacker. You know, this is a you know, the attacker. You go in for attack, you take these and you go boom. I've got a, you know, that would be a great roll. I've got a 9 on the red dice and a 10 on the blue dice, and assuming no modifiers, you then come down here and go, okay, 9 on the red dice, 10 on the blue dice. And that's in here, D1 R1. And that looks like its defender loses a step and retreats, or all units must retreat a hex, and blah 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 blah. Great. So that's the combat, which is quite unusual to be rolling. Usually you're rolling a sort of die roll and cross-referencing it against you know, something known, like a ratio, or you know, a difference in factors or something. To be rolling sort of 2 variables is quite unusual, and then they're all modified by these ratings on the combatants, their elan and their mass and their firepower, depending on whether they've charged each other, whether someone's in some better defensive terrain and can shoot you and add its firepower to the roll, and all that kind of stuff. It's quite involved. It looks quite fun, it looks very cunning, but it is, again, very, very unfamiliar. Okay, what else can I say? This is a chit draw system, so we are going to have a bunch of chits in a bag. There is the bag, and there are the chits we've got combat chits for either side, so when the blue combat chit is drawn, blue units will attack. When the green one's drawn, green units will attack. Then we've got our rally phase, our movement phase, and an initiative phase where either or both of these things can happen, and so on. And what we're going to do is throw those in a bag and then draw them. And let's say we draw the movement chit, then all the clans with movement orders, I think you roll off to see who goes first, and then you alternate backwards and forwards between the two players, and they can move everything with under movement orders until we get to the end of that, and then we'll go back and we'll draw another chit. And let's say we draw the blue combat chit, then blue is going to fight with their units, and they'll go across them and fight with all the ones that have to fight, and fighting is often mandatory in this, by the way. And that will be that done. And then we'll draw another chit, and so on. So we will get these orders chits, but added to that, when at the start of each turn, the leaders will roll some command points, so they'll roll their d6 and they'll cross-reference this to see how many command points they get on their respective tables. And they can add that many clan chits to the bowl as well. They can use those command points to throw their own command chits into this. And when that clan is drawn, then that clan can do stuff, essentially. Yeah, they can also use command points for battle tactics. Each side can have a battle tactic, which is on a separate sheet, which I will grab here, just pan down to it like this. So each side can choose a battle tactic. You can see like this. I will not attempt to pronounce these, but you can see that that tactic of deployment of troops to envelop the enemy, initial orders, player's choice, and then that player gets 4 options to choose assault actions, and 4 options to choose retreat actions, and some combined manoeuvres actions. And you can see 4 of those, and they will be able to apply those during the game. So they'll be able to say, okay, I want this clan to suddenly go into assault, and they'll be able to sort of automatically put them into assault. I want that clan to retreat, they'll be able to automatically pull them into retreat. So you can choose different battle plans to get different combinations of special orders for your guys to give you a little bit more control. You can see this is all attacks and impetuous attacks. Boom, like that. So yeah, if you're not using those, if you're just trying to change orders from one thing to another, then it's a die roll again. If you're familiar with musket and pike, then it's a die roll a bit like musket and pike, where, you know, if you're in attack and you try and change to defence, you're going to need a 5 or better modified by your leadership on a d6. If you're in defence and you try and change to regroup, you need 3 or better, blah blah blah. Very simple, straightforward, just a sort of orders change matrix. Great. Here's the terrain effects chart I was talking about, and you can see black, clear, blocked off, dotted, and then these things and impassable terrain, and same with paths and roads and stuff. Okay, so yeah, all of this stuff is extremely unfamiliar. Nothing in this game is working like anything I've played before, apart from maybe the similarities with musket and pike in a few of the orders systems, but beyond that, we're in wholly new terrain here. That is amplified in this game by the fact that, or that unfamiliarity and the difficulty of it is, amplified by the fact that none of these are straightforward to armies line up and have at it kind of battles. There's no sort of edge hill kind of thing where the armies line up and try and murder each other in an orderly fashion. This is much more complicated than that. So here we have essentially an ambush with the Green Army is all going to start in some terrible orders deployment, I think, with no battle plan active, so they're going to have to spend command points trying to get their battle plan actually even up and running before they can use it. And they're all having breakfast, and yeah, it's all very bad for them when they get mugged. So that adds complications to this battle. The other two, Yamazaki in 1582 has a battle going on the board and then a separate siege going on its own castle battle map. And Sekigahara features lots of clans that may or may not change sides based on all kinds of diplomacy and so on. So if I just try and have up here, but I'll try and pull out some of the relevant sort of player aids for that stuff if we come over here. So, for example, Sekigahara comes with this sort of diplomacy track. I haven't looked at it, but you can see that there's lots of tracks there, covered in all kinds of writing, and if then, and if Clan M can be activated for free this turn, place their chits in the bowl at no cost. It's all absolutely covered in this stuff. So you can see there's quite a complex extra dimension to Sekigahara based on lots of diplomacy and people switching allegiances. And then Yamazaki features this rather natty castle siege mini game alongside the main game. That looks cool, but both of those looked a little bit more involved than I wanted to try. So this one looked like the one that at least featured just straight up fighting, even if it is a sort of ambush. Anyway, yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, obviously, but when I figure it out and get underway, I will try and give an indication of what's happening. Okay, I'm here just trying to set up the first turn of Tenkatoitsu by Hexasim, and I've chosen battle orders for either side. The Aikida clans, because they're being ambushed and they're all having breakfast, start in regroup. Tokugawa's forces are pretty much all starting in move orders, apart from one in defence, and that's this guy down here in this hex, which is worth 5 victory points for some reason. There it is. That's how it is. Maybe it's some castle or something. It's something defendable from these sides. You can see these arrows, but attackable from over here quite easily. Anyway, he's in defence, everyone else is in attack. So I then rolled some command points for either side. Both sides got 5s, which gave both sides, actually they've got -1s on the die roll, so they ended up with 4s, and that gives them 4 command points. And both are therefore putting 4 chits into the orders pool or bag or whatever you want to call these. Chits are going in the command token bag here that we'll then draw out of to see who gets activated. Now, one thing that does happen though is you have to count how far away these clans are from their commander, and if they're too far away, then instead of going directly in the bag, they go on a delay track and go in the bag further down the road. In other words, messengers are having to ride off round this map to try and get those orders through to their respective clans. So Tokugawa would quite like to put clan H into the bag, but because there's this lot in the way, it's too far away. He's not even on the map, so you use his entry point. There's no way he can get the orders to them, so he's not going to try that. He's going to throw D, E, F and G into the bag, and so all those chits are going in. So that's the Tokugawa clan chits going into the bag. Now with these, J, K, L and H, so Aikida wants to get these to stop having breakfast, but they are too far away, so he has to put J, K and L, which are those clan tokens, on his delay track, and they can get those orders next turn. So they go up here and can hopefully try and change orders next turn. And H is the other one he's chosen, which is two units in here, but they are close enough to him along this road for him to give those orders directly. His counter is there, so H can go straight in the bag, and then we will be ready to draw a chit. So that, I think, is the end of this phase. I think we've now got everything prepped. Everyone's got battle orders, everyone's got orders. The bag is full of chits. We've done the delay phase, we've done the command point determination phase, we've done the battle plan activation phase, we've done our chit selection, and now we do an activation sequence. So we do a chit draw. Yeah, now it looks roughly right. Let's just make sure we're getting this right. Clans and orders. So, okay. Let's just do this then. I'm going to give this a shake. It's quite hard to shake on camera and mix all the chits up in this bag. So all you're getting is a very shaky camera rather than bag shake, but I can guarantee that I am trying to shake these chits up. And let's just draw something out. There we go. That'll be that one there. And that is Clan D. Okay. Clan D is over here. They're going to get to do their orders. I'm going to figure out what they're going to do. So we're learning as we go along here. This is what Clan D did. They took to the mountains here to try and establish a good position to attack into this group. Learning as I go along, however, I found out that March, I hadn't read everything very carefully, I've only skimmed this, and you can't enter an enemy zone of control in March. You have to be, it looks like you have to be in attack, which makes complete sense. I thought you could, but you can't. And so I've had to rethink the Tokugawa clan's initial orders. Because I knew I wanted D to come into these mountains and establish a presence up here, which is fine, and then everyone to attack, but I don't want to hold this attack up or to be changing the orders from manoeuvre to attack unnecessarily. They can just charge as far as I'm concerned, but I didn't want these guys charging. So that's fine, and the off-board stuff is going to have to come on in movement. Anyway, it's all good. So I've just had to change some orders, and we go on to the next chit draw. So the next phase has come out, the initiative phase. That's the chit that came out. And what that means is that any clans in movement or regroup which have at least one of their units in an enemy zone of control are activated. Now, I'm not quite sure how you'd get into an enemy zone of control unless you were already there and then you changed your orders to movement. Okay, fair enough. But anyway, that's nobody. Nobody has, I mean, all of the Aikida clan are in regroup, but none of them are in an enemy zone of control, and likewise the movement, blah blah blah. Yes, the only other thing this says then is that any one clan of the player's choice, which must be activated first in this phase, can also be activated. So we're going to roll some dice for each clan, see who wins that. So green 6, Aikida clan, followed by the Tokugawa clan. Aikida, general. I shouldn't mix up my terminology here. These are clans. So Aikida is going to get to choose a clan to activate. And I'm going to have to see what that means. Is that like a clan activation, in which case they might be able to change their orders? Let's see what that means. Well, it did mean a change of orders, and the Aikida army chose clan J to try and change orders and promptly failed. So they were in regroup, and some of them were within 3 hexes of enemy units and had to withdraw. So following the procedures, the units in here and here had to try and get away from these guys, and I had to think and read a little bit about how that was done, because I thought they would withdraw through like this and blah. But you can't stack, you can't move through other units, you can never have more than 1 unit in a hex, so it makes it sound like you can't move through things. And so they had to walk round and along this road, and this is the position they end up in, to be at least 4 hexes from the enemy. So that's now happened. The initiative phase is nearly over, except the Tokugawa army gets to choose a clan to try and activate and change its orders. And I think they might activate D and try and move them now into attack. And that would be perhaps quite an interesting thing for them to do. But I'm going to think about that off camera. Well, at this Battle of Nagakute, the next chit out of the cup was the rally chit, and what that allows is for the regroup clans with regroup orders to activate, and that's the entirety of the Aikida army. Well, these guys are all far enough from the enemy that it doesn't affect them. They can all try and rally if they like, but there's no point because they're all in perfect order anyway, so it has no effect on those. But over here, it's allowed these clans, these 3 clans, to pull away from the advance here and get 4 hexes away again. And they're now pulling back behind this river line, or up to this river line, and establishing a defensive position where they're not being attacked, from the front and rear by this sort of pincer. So all of a sudden, this, even early on, this Tokugawa attack seems to have not materialised as anticipated, and this force is now, I wouldn't say better defended, but you can see bits of it behind a river line here, bits of it, and and they will be able to withdraw behind that river quite soon, or they've just put a bit more distance between themselves and the attackers as they try and slip into defend orders and then slip behind the river and defend. So the position can change quite radically, and it's very very dependent on what order these chits come out of the cup, which is really cool because it gives the game a lot of replayability, and it means that there's no sort of perfect setup for this battle. Anything you do, you're going to have to kind of roll with the punches and see how things develop. So at the moment, I'd say things are not developing as the Tokugawa player wants in any way. So on to the next chit. So I got to the end of turn 1 here at Tenkatoitsu in the Battle of Nagakute, 1584. This was the position we reached, so you can see a very stable position for the Aikida army, who were expecting to be under a lot greater pressure, which didn't materialise. They managed to withdraw, and then 3 movement points, and these guys got in each other's way and had to come off the road because you're not allowed to move through each other. And this guy could only move one hex because that was 2 movement points, and that was him done. And this guy had moved round him, and that was, it was just dreadful. This guy was over here and had to charge towards the nearest enemy, and that was over here, and so he's now just chomping through the mountains with 3 movement points. That's all hideous. So yeah, this sort of pincer attack that was all set up over here, the way the chits came out, it didn't work at all. The only combat we got was this attack into here. These guys are under attack orders, and as you can see, with the dice roll like that, which was their dice roll, 3 on the blue dice, 2 on the red dice, even though they had a +1 on the blue and a -1 on the red. Yeah, awful. So they took 2 stat losses and got chewed up. And now we go into turn 2 with a very interesting position. This is I've been comparing this to musket and pike all along, and I think that comparisons are apt in that it's quite chaotic, and you're very reliant on sort of chit draws and all kinds of craziness, and it's quite unpredictable. It really is quite unpredictable. I think, there will be an art in this game to having your units in the right order at the right time, and when you're first learning it and you don't quite understand what any of the orders are going to do and how they're going to interact with each other, it is going to be quite a mess, and that's what I'm predicting. Okay, so here we are at technically the start of turn 2. And what happens is we have to re-prepare the bag of chits that we're going to draw to activate stuff. And these 2 were still in the bag at the end of the last turn. They didn't get drawn. The turn ends when these 5 are drawn, and whatever else is left comes out at the start of the following turn, and we make some rolls on this table, this messenger table. So I'm going to roll a green dice and a blue dice for green and blue, and we're going to get a result, and they both get 6s. Wow, check that out. Okay, which means that here the messenger must take a detour to avoid enemy movement. Place the chit in the 1 box of the delay track. So so now these guys are going to go into the delay boxes here, and these guys come out of the delay boxes and now go into the mix here for all our orders chits. And then we're going to make the roll again to see how many command points we get. There's a -1 in each of these rolls, so blue gets a 5, green gets a 1. That is 2 points for green and 4 points for blue. Okay, so blue is going to throw. Well, I'm going to have to do some hex counting here to see whether they're in command range, and then sort the orders chits out. And I think I'm going to stop the video here because I think I've blathered quite a lot on this. So I'm going to stop here at the end of turn 1, and I'll start doing turns in full in future videos.